How is it going, everybody? And thank you again for tuning in to the Hanging Up the Boots podcast. This episode is part 2 of my interview with Brandon Kell, and I hope you guys enjoyed part 1. But this time we're going over a little bit about the deployment, but more importantly, what Brandon has been up to since we've gotten back. And because he got out right away and he had just as interesting of a time post Marine Corps career as he did inside. So I hope you guys enjoy.
Retrospect, it probably wasn't an easy time for them either. I have no idea what they were dealing with or what was on the chopping block for them or anything. I'm not justifying their actions, but you can only see the world through the lens in which you view it.
Right, absolutely. And I'm sure that they were under, a great deal of pressure, and I kind of tried to give them the benefit of the doubt, especially knowing what I know about management now. Obviously it's different in, a military versus a private sector capacity. But, I found that a lot of the complaints that I had about my management at my former job was because they had their balls in a vice over something, or somebody rather 2 to 3 tiers of management above them. And so,
Sure.
the shit rolls downhill, and then all of this strange, out of character actions and policies and things of that nature were not coming from them. And it seemed that's what seemed to be. I tried to kind of apply that to what we experienced, but the problem is the way that they went about it. Because as if it had just been a matter of them saying, we need to change this SOP, or, we need to change this procedure or this policy or this organization, we need to shake up the teams a little bit because we have to accomplish X, Y, and Z. And right now we're equipped to handle A, B, and C. We need to handle this differently. That would have been one thing altogether. But the fact of the matter was, at least through that lens of perspective, like you said, even with all of the reflection and introspection and everything that I've pointed at their treatment of us, the problem that I had with them was their treatment of us. It wasn't their handling of any kind of situation necessarily. I just thought that their actual management and planning and policy making and stuff, like I lost faith in that from them really early.
Sure. There was a lack of an effort to fight for us within like the briefing rooms. There was a lot of power tripping, and
that was what I had the problem with. It wasn't wasn't the the fact that they just objectively they emotions removed, that they just didn't know what was going on or what we were supposed to be doing at any given time. It was the fact that they were entirely willing to sell our souls to buy the farm 100% of the time. Like our AOIC, I felt, had our back most of the time.
He did, man.
He did.
I think that he just didn't want people. I mean, you probably have a better relationship with him because you were actually on the same boat with him.
Yeah.
I didn't have as much interaction with him, but from where I stood, it just seemed like he just didn't want the detachment to dislike him as much as we disliked the other ones.
And I could definitely see how he was perceived that way by the people that weren't around him all the time. But he, like, in our defense on the New Orleans, he helped us out a lot. So like he came to our aid, and the nice thing about him was that when he couldn't, he would just tell us. When he was like, look, like, you guys are about to get fucked, and it's coming from this person, this is why, and I'm really sorry, but there's nothing I can do about it.
And that's great. And that's really good. That's really good communication.
Yeah, and that happened on more than one occasion, and that was why it almost highlighted the complete lack of that in the other two, because they even if what he was doing for us was marginal and, by any other right would just be run of the mill expected, like manner of conducting oneself, especially in a leadership position.
Yeah.
He just that alone made it that much more obvious that the other two were just like, we to them were promotion fodder. And
Yeah.
it was such a drag, dude. And that's why I tried to give them the benefit of thinking like, oh well, maybe they're just getting smoked by somebody, and that's it.
My whole thing with like trying to all I'm doing is trying to let that go. You know what I mean? I don't want to reflect on my time in service and have it hurt me,
Oh
because
yeah,
you can't change it.
right. And that's the thing is,
It'll be there. Like I read once, you carry your past with you always, and you can wear it like a sweater, or you can wear it like a straitjacket.
I like that.
And I don't want. I had a very mixed bag of things that happened to me in the Marine Corps. A lot of them were really fucking shitty. Yeah, I had a mixed bag. I had really bad things that happened to me, which felt like just terrible strokes of bad luck. And then I had really great experiences too. I got to do more shit in my enlistment than I think most people get to do in their entire military career.
Yeah.
Like
And
I got to go to an intelligence house. I got to serve in 3 different capacities as a security guard in a really good platoon where I got to drive these crazy war trucks. And then I got to do like some semi high speed shit where I got to go to a survival school. I got to be a rappelling master. I got to go to airborne. I got to do
airborne.
Yeah, take the fleet, boy. I did like I got to work with counterintelligence guys. I got to work with snipers. I got to work with amphibious reconnaissance dudes. I got to meet linguists and go to all these different places and ride in little rubber boats and sneak around at night. And with all the bullshit, I still got to go on a deployment and go to a bunch of different countries. And I learned that even when shit seems like it's just completely bleak and there's no hope, like you can create something really good out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hated our command. I try not to hate them now because that's not healthy.
Yeah.
But dude, how long has it been? It's been 3 years, 4 years.
Yeah, it's been a while, and that's the thing too, is that I do still hate them, but it's not an all consuming thing. It's just when I look back on not my military career as a whole, but on those individuals and that specific experience of the deployment, I realize it's more of it's not a fiery hatred or a resentment. It's more of a almost a surprise, or a curiosity of like, how did that happen? Like, how did those people find themselves to be in a position of leadership whilst also being so monumentally incompetent? Because their incompetence definitely adversely affected all of us, but that deployment, I always describe it as the best miserable fucking time of my entire life. And it wasn't just from them. Having no working plumbing was bad. Having jet fuel in the water was bad. Running out of food constantly was bad. But, playing D&D, what fucks you up?
I got assigned to mess duty, which wasn't that bad. Actually, working in the mess hall is pretty great if you make friends there, because then you get to eat before everybody, and that's a big plus. But what fucked me up was dumping tons of garbage into the ocean, because like I'm not like a bleeding heart, but I do give a shit about the environment, and And I think about that all the time. I'm like, dude, I went through so much bullshit to try and do something better for the world. And I just contributed to the fucking massive garbage island in the Pacific
Well, but
or
the
wherever.
the stuff that we dumped was all non-plastic though, yeah?
Negative.
Oh.
There's a lot of plastic that gets in there.
Oh. That is a bummer. I definitely thought that I was under the impression that we were a little bit stricter at sea cuz I always thought that was really weird too.
I mean, they do take some measures, but you know, when it's the middle of the night and you're off the coast of Korea in the winter, it's pretty fucking cold outside, and you ask a bunch of like junior enlisted sailors and Marines to efficiently dispose of this garbage. Some of them don't want to be out there in like the blistering cold for that long,
Yeah.
and some corners get cut.
Yeah.
So
No, that's
and
fair.
and then sometimes it's just an accident, dude. Man, like those bags are really freaking heavy, and like you trying to like pick them up and like shake them out appropriately, like the slime that's on the plastic, it'll just slip right out of your hands.
Yeah.
Like it accidentally goes in there too, also as well as negligently.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, yeah, that all of those experiences, I didn't really like shape them out in any positive way for a long time. It really like sat on me. I was in a bad spot when we got back
Yeah.
from the deployment. I I wasn't in as good of shape as I had been. I was in better shape because I worked out on the deployment, but I wasn't in great shape. Uh, my negative thoughts and stuff were kind of being fed by my appetite. But
Mhm.
the options that I had in front of me weren't very promising. I was like, well, I could stay and be cadre and RP, which I'm not qualified or ready to do. Um, I can try and go MARSOC, but I have a shit ton of training to try and get myself in shape. That's going to take a while.
Yeah.
I could try and be an officer, but like I have to get this package approved and I have to like prepare for that. I don't even know how to do that. So like I think the best option for me at that time was to get out. And I say that about me getting in as well. I said like for the options that were in front of me and where my frame of mind was, that was the best option for me was to go into the military. And I'm so grateful to have all the experiences that I have had because I feel um, like I'm happy to be the man that I am now,
Yeah,
and I'm
definitely.
happy to have had like the past 3 years the changes that I've gone through from getting out. I've grown so much. I don't think I would have grown this fast had I stayed in. I
And
think that I would have gotten comfortable, or it just it wouldn't have panned out, and I'd still be in.
right.
Who knows what shape I'd be in then?
Exactly. And that's actually what I wanted to get to is so you get out
Yeah.
and you're not in a very good mental space and as not as good of a physical space as you would like to be. So you get out. What have you been doing since? So, because I remember when you got the last I spoke to you before you got out, you were planning on doing something fitness or health related. So, where did that take you or not?
Okay, so when I was on the deployment, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, like for real. And I had contemplated physical therapist because everybody in the Marine Corps is a fucking meathead, and they're like, I'm just gonna work out for a living. That's not what physical
I
therapists do.
Yeah, I definitely
Um,
planned on doing that for a little while, so I feel attacked.
yeah. So it's like a trope, but
Yeah, now I'm gonna be a cop, which is another trope.
whatever. Who gives a shit? Um, Yeah, so I had a job lined up. So before I went into the Marine Corps, when I was in the DEP, I actually I joined a local union of operating engineers. So they do heavy equipment operating, and I worked on a pipeline. So coincidentally, it lined up with me getting out of the Marine Corps that another pipeline was coming through Florida. So I contacted my union hall because I had been paying my dues just in case I wanted to have something to fall back on. It's really not that expensive. So I was like, whatever, you might as well have just that extra cord on your safety net.
Right.
I called them up and I said, hey, I'm getting out of the Marine Corps. Do you have any work? And they said, yeah, we can use you on this pipeline that's coming through, which is great because pipeline work pays really well. And it's a natural gas pipeline. It's not like the ones that were all over the news. It was, they power airports and bring energy and all that stuff to cities and stuff. It's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I
That's
immediately
cool,
get out
man.
of the Marine Corps, and not 5 days later, I'm on a construction site.
That's pretty
So
fucking radical.
I was getting two paychecks there for a minute. I was getting paid by the Marine Corps and by Rockford or whatever,
Hell yeah.
um, which was super sick, dude. Like, I tell you what, if you guys can get on a pipeline, you should do it, because when I was 19, when I first got on a pipeline, I was bringing in $2,000 a week, dude.
Holy moly.
More money than I knew what to do with. And the same thing happened when I got out. So I was really lucky. I got right out. I had a plan. I got right onto work. I did that job for, the thing is, it's temporary work. Okay. So the job only lasted for 7 months,
Mm-hmm.
um, or 8 months. I can't remember. I get done with that. And, and then I'm at my dad's house, cause that's where I was staying when I first got out. And he leaves. He's like, "Hey, I'm going to go uptown. I'll see you in a minute." And that was the first time in like 3 years that I had been alone. So like we had the
Oh.
workup, we had the deployment, and then I went immediately onto a high paced, heavy, like super physical job. And they kick you right out, right? Like they push you right off the boat. And immediately after I got off the boat, I had to start checking out.
Yeah.
So I was nonstop for like 2.5 years or something like that. And this was the first time that I'd actually physically been alone. I had a fucking panic attack, dude.
Yeah.
I couldn't breathe. I fucking like my went tunnel vision, and I collapsed in my bedroom, like, because of silence and solitude. And it freaked me the fuck out.
Holy shit. I mean,
Yeah.
I understand a little bit because I remember that first night when we got back from the deployment. I uh I was alone in a barracks room. Like we got back and um I went to Scott's apartment for a little while. And we
Okay.
watched like Silent Hill or something. And
Yeah.
then I went and I had to go and get into my new barracks room and I was going to be alone. And so I like dropped my sea bag and I laid down on my bed and it took me I was laying down and I just closed my eyes and I was like, I feel uncomfortable right now and I don't know what is going on. Like I don't know what the problem is. And it just like you said, I realized it was the first time I had been alone and in total silence for literally as long as I could remember.
Yeah.
And
I,
I didn't have a full-fledged panic attack, but I had to get out of my room and I ended up going to the gym or something, but like I could not stay in my room because the silence was deafening and I hated it.
dude, I was completely blindsided because I didn't think there was anything wrong. I didn't think there was anything wrong with me. I had just been going at such a fast pace with so many
Right.
things that like I didn't have time to like kind of let it sit in.
Yeah.
And it freaked me out, dude. And like that wasn't the last time that something like that happened. Like I found myself being on edge like more frequently when I was in like just in normal situations. And like I would not really know why. I didn't feel like there was anything wrong with me.
Mhm.
And and it was after, so I got done with the pipeline. And then I'd always kind of wanted to get my personal trainer certification. So I started studying to take the National Academy of Sports Medicine certification, and I passed it and I became a personal trainer. I worked at a gym, and then I carried my own insurance for a while, and I started just training people out of my garage. Um, I worked a bunch of different jobs, and excuse me, I'll back up. I ended up dating. I meet a really great girl, and we dated for a few years. Actually, we just recently broke up about 3 months ago.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, dude.
But it's all good, man. But she was awesome. She actually really helped me through a lot of like just I guess kind of figure my shit out.
Mhm.
I worked a bunch of different jobs, dude, because I kind of came to like this. I came to like this point where I was like, I didn't want to be feeling shitty anymore, and I didn't want to like hold on to like all these negative feelings that I had about the Marine Corps because it was a super conflicting thing for me, right? Because
Okay.
I was really motivated in the Marine Corps. Like I really like the things that were inherently Marine Corps, the things that are like the philosophy and like the way that it's supposed to be. I was extremely passionate about that because in my mind that made perfect sense. Like the camaraderie, the honor, courage, commitment, like don't lie, cheat, or steal, be disciplined, do everything to the best of your ability. Like those things are good characteristics to have.
Yeah,
The
definitely.
things that were fucking with me is that I was just around a lot of people that weren't doing those things. And
Right. In the Marine
that,
Corps?
I think, the people, it was a mixed bag, dude.
Yeah.
Radben's a weird place.
Yeah, it is.
Radben's a really strange place. I think it's a terrible place, but I think that it's a terrible place because you're either one thing or you're not. You're either motivated or you're completely unmotivated.
Yeah.
It's either people that like genuinely want to be good. It's either one flavor of Kool-Aid or the next. Either you drink the Kool-Aid and you want to do your best, or you drink the other Kool-Aid and it's cool to not give a fuck. And
Yeah, I can see that.
I was sipping from both cups every once in a while. Like once it started wearing on me. So it's a huge conflict of interests.
Yeah.
And it took getting out and like trying to look back on that and trying to look at the good stuff and try to get rid of the bad stuff. Because over time, what happens, I feel, is that veterans reflect on their time in service and they start to forget about the bullshit.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
They start remembering
The
well,
good
fuck, dude,
times.
I miss hanging out with my friends, or
Yeah.
I miss playing with guns, or I miss jumping out of airplanes, or like all this other stuff, and then that kind of like attributes to these negative feelings that you have.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, some of these negative feelings and like this, like a problem adjusting with this new life, I think was a difficulty like redefining who I am or like what your self is, right? Because in the Marine Corps, like you're kind of given a self to be.
Yeah, exactly. You're given a mold and you're supposed to jam yourself into it, and then you're allowed to figure out what's left once you're out.
Yeah. And dude, I was told in the very beginning of my career, and it was actually super lame. Like I keep like referring back to like drill instructors and stuff, but I actually had one really good heavy hat. And he told me, he said, the Marine Corps is what you make of it. And it took me getting out and 3 years of reflection to really understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Because looking back, no matter all, like, despite all the bullshit, right? Despite getting a shitty first duty station, despite getting a 6105 for trying to do the right thing, or despite being fired and having someone of a lower rank appointed over you, or despite having a shitty deployment and X, Y, and Z, like somehow, like through my own perseverance and through like the help of a lot of really good people, of like maybe not a lot of good people, but a few really good people, like the people on our deployment, and then like a handful of really good staff NCOs amidst a giant pool of slimy ones.
Yeah.
Like I was able to have like a pretty great experience.
Yeah.
And I don't think I ever would have realized that had I stayed in. But I think that for me, and this is just my experience and me coping with a lot of negative thoughts that I've had since I've been out, and a lot of my anxiety manifests itself in anger. Okay, I've gotten myself in quite a bit of trouble actually since I've been out. I've tried fighting people on construction sites. I've cussed out managers, and I've straight up walked out of a building and quit right there, which is something I'd never done before in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But it was because I had a lot of anger that I was holding on to, and a problem with authority.
Yeah.
Because of what we had gone through.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I can't keep doing this. This is not something that I can keep doing. I'm not going to be able to be successful. I'm not going to be able to, I don't want to limit myself because of things that I can't change. So really the only other option that I saw was, well, I need to face those things,
mm-hmm.
and try to reshape them. So for me, kind of being motivated, being in the Marine Corps, I just looked at the things that I thought were good. Okay, I'm by myself. I don't have anybody else's. I don't have anybody else's views to shape how my opinions are. So I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, you know what? If being disciplined and getting up early in the morning is something that I think is to be looked up to, or if I think having discipline in my day to day, I can still do those things and not be in the Marine Corps. Like you don't have to wear Marpat and carry a rifle
To
to
get up
be,
early. Yeah.
or not even just to get up early. If you don't like getting up early, fuck it, dude. Don't get up early. But you don't have to wear that uniform. You don't have to have Marine over your chest to be like to be ambitious.
Yeah.
Like you can reflect on your time in service and pick out the things that you benefited from
Yeah, and you should.
and shape yourself into who you want to be.
Right.
Because for me, that's what the problem was, is that I wasn't being who I wanted to be, and I wasn't happy with who I was.
Yeah. I gotcha.
I was like, well, I can't keep doing this. I started seeing a therapist. I started talking to people about the shit that I was going through
Mm-hmm.
and or the things that I was experiencing and the problems that I had in my time in service and why I had problems with them.
Mm-hmm.
And it was by doing that I was able to kind of reconcile those issues. And
That's awesome.
and I'm not saying they're all, like everything's perfect, but I definitely feel ambitious again. I'm in better shape now than I've ever been. I give a fuck. I try to be nicer to people, reach out
And
to my loved ones.
yeah, that's awesome, man. And so basically you are just kind of trying to like recap that specifically. You your coping came from intense introspection, and I agree with you wholeheartedly on realizing that you can look back on your Marine Corps career, your military career, and pick out the character traits that you want to take out, because I had that same problem where I got out, and admittedly, for any of you who knew me when I was in the Marine Corps, I was not at all a motivated person, because for me I kind of was sipping from both Kool-Aid cups as well, in the sense that all I cared about was the mission. I did not give a flying fuck about Marine Corps orders and greenside shit, because I was pissed off at the system because I'd gotten hosed. And as long as I was good at my job and I could keep people from being killed and get bad guys killed, I didn't care how many pull-ups I could do or whatever. I just
Yeah,
wanted to or if I had a great haircut or whatever.
sure.
I just wanted to be able to do my job so well that people couldn't say shit to me about the fact that I had long hair or whatever. And so when I got out, I still kept that problem with authority and that spite for the Marine Corps. And the problem was is I checked the things that I did want to take from the Marine Corps at the door. Those,
Yeah,
the honor, courage, commitment, the don't lie, cheat, and steal. Not that I started lying, cheating, and stealing, but like all of those, that self discipline, those things that are programmed into you, the things that I joined the Marine Corps to have programmed into me because I didn't have them originally. A lot of them I didn't take with me when I picked up my DD 214 because I wanted to leave that entire chapter of my life behind me.
oh, same. I mean, yeah, I agree. That's why I say that it took me getting out to be able to see those things because of what
Yeah.
experiences I had. Like when I got out, I did have some discipline because of my job, and it was really intensive, and I was excited. Like I was still in like the honeymoon era of initially getting out.
Mm-hmm.
But when like I had the time to decompress and all of that really sink in, like I didn't want to accept that I was depressed. I refused to admit that I had a problem
Yeah.
because I think I've heard you speak about this in your other episodes. Is that you kind of feel like if you've not engaged in legitimate combat, that maybe you don't maybe
You
you're
don't
not
rate.
allowed to feel like that.
Yeah, you don't rate.
Um, yeah, which is that's funny. You don't rate. I think that's a I'll put a pin in that. That's something I want to get back to. But I wouldn't allow myself to even think that there was something wrong with me. So I just kept compressing it and denying it, and it got worse, dude.
Oh yeah.
I was an asshole. It was not fun to be around. I gained a lot of weight. I weighed 200 pounds, dude. At one point, I weighed 200 pounds. I'm 5'8".
And you've
That's a
never
lot
been
of
that
weight
guy.
for a short guy.
Yeah, when for those of you who aren't watching this on YouTube, Brandon was shred city on deployment, and the last time I saw him was at Rusty's wedding, and he was even more so shredded, even more so in a much leaner sense. But he's never been a. I've never known him to not be in great shape, so that is a shock. That is a shock to hear.
Yeah, dude. No, I weighed 200 pounds. I didn't have good relationships with people in my family. I didn't have my friendships were falling apart. I wasn't really talking to anybody, and my relationship was dysfunctional as fuck.
Yeah.
And I was like, "What is happening? Like, this is not normal." And that's, dude. I swallowed my pride. I was like, I called the VA, and I was like, I think I need to talk to somebody about depression.
Yeah.
And they evaluated me and they asked me some pretty simple questions, and it was like clear as fucking day. They're like, yeah, dude, you need to talk to somebody. So I started talking to a therapist.
Did the VA pay for it?
Yeah, it's free. You don't have to pay for it.
Because when I went to the VA for a therapist, he basically was like, he's a very nice guy, but he basically was like, he basically just took like a quantifiable measurement of my depression and anxiety, and then was like, you should probably stop smoking so much pot because you're not sleeping as very, very well, and like you should probably drink a little less, or like you should probably like that. It wasn't a very, like, this to me feels way more therapeutic
Definitely.
than what I received at the VA. I might have just not used the resource to its full extent, which it sounds like I didn't. But
from the people that I've spoken to, who visited varying different VAs, it's been a mixed review. So I think it is hit or miss. I think if your VA might just have a shitty person to talk to, and if that's the case, like, don't be discouraged. Like, just talk to somebody else. Like, they have outreach programs. If you don't want to use the VA, like, you can go talk to your school counselor, or you can just, like, if you're religious, you can go talk to like a religious leader or something, or there's a lot.
talk
Even
to the chaps.
if you're not religious, because I'm not very religious. Like, if you wanted to, like, it might even just be beneficial to go talk to somebody who's down to earth and is kind of like an open-minded person. Like, and if a church is the only option that you have to find someone like that, maybe that's a good option.
I just wanted to kind of air that out, so that people, if any listeners are having problems finding, somebody to talk to, there are apparently better resources. I hadn't really considered, going to churches and stuff.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's not you. If you're having a hard time, it's not you, dude, or gal, or whoever.
Yeah.
It's not you. Just find someone else to talk to.
Yeah, it's not you, it's me. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
I had a huge issue with authority.
Yeah.
And one thing that I had been like, I hadn't been facing for a long time, dude. I was actually in a training scenario when a kid died. Actually had I was like 2 people away from a young man that drowned in a pool. I'm obviously not going to say his name, but
yeah.
And I hadn't really faced that, but I did notice that, like, I thought about it, and I don't know why. I mean, I didn't think that it messed with me. Like, they even asked, like, when the whole thing went down, do you talk to a psychologist? Like, no, I'm good. Let's keep training. We're good. I didn't think I needed to talk about it. But then it was like years afterwards, I'm at the beach and I'm like hearing this kid gurgle water in my ear. I'm like, why am I thinking about that?
Yeah.
So you might have like, there might have been like an experience that you have, or there could have been like a way that you were treated that maybe doesn't set in right away, but I'm not a psychologist. I don't know how trauma works,
Yeah.
but like if you don't feel good about something, like don't be
Ignore
so
it.
prideful to talk to somebody, because like the whole you don't rate thing, I think that's a huge problem, and like a
It
huge
is. Yeah.
deal with why people get fucked up when they leave.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to do this, is because I did not know that about you. I did not know that you had witnessed that. That's pretty fucking heavy. Like, damn.
Yeah, but
Um,
even still, I was like, okay, yeah, I saw him die, but I didn't kill him. So do I rate to talk about that? Like, I didn't. This isn't combat. This is a training scenario.
yeah, and the thing that always struck me about that, especially having to do with the Marine Corps, is that in the Marine Corps, it's mission accomplishment first, troop safety second. So it's or troop well-being second. I forget the exact terminology, but you
Yeah,
know, you're programmed, whether you think it or not, you are programmed to just mash all of that shit down and finish your training iteration. You have to mash all that shit down and finish the deployment, finish the workup, finish the deployment. Like
yeah,
there was some shit that I still think about when we got back from um one of the sea exercises, coming home and hopping out of the back of the LAV to see the Binco and the sergeant major meeting us in the FIOC, and we're like, what's all this about? And
fucking a, dude. Yeah,
yeah, what's going on here? And for them to then find out, and not in a graceful way, because they didn't know that we didn't know about it, but we found out that one of our compatriots who had been sent back from the boat had killed himself in his room. And um that was, I found that fucked with me for a long time, because like I would just, like you said, I would be doing something completely unrelated, and actually the image that stuck with me a lot was seeing Dijon crying, like just
yeah.
sobbing, and I was
That
like
was
that.
me with Baron on the beach.
Yeah,
Dude was
exactly.
just fucking. I don't know how much he had to drink, but he was just trying to
I
fucking
remember
go.
that.
He was, yeah, man.
I remember
Yeah,
watching you walk after him, but that was the image that, like, and it was at the randomest times. Like I'd be eating a burrito or something, and just like little, like just flashes of just Dijon's just sobbing face, and I was like, why am I still like this? It's been this was long after we'd gotten back, and I'd
you
be
were
like,
close to him. You
uh,
were, I think you were a lot. Well, I mean, you were closer friends with him than I was. I had minimal interaction with him.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, I wasn't gonna invite him to my wedding, but like, it was definitely hard when that happened, but yeah, like we did our little thing, and we did you know the the service, and you know nobody I knew cried. Everybody just kind of stood there, and we paid our respects, and we tried not to look at the grieving family, and
Yeah.
then we moved on, and training continued. And because at this point we were like less than 2 months from shipping, so we were like, we literally don't have time to grieve. Let's
Yeah.
just put this away and deal with it later. And then
Didn't
I
somebody shoot themselves on your boat?
uh on the boat, no, not what, I don't think so.
I heard somebody. I can't remember if it was on my boat or your boat. I heard somebody uh, shot themselves in the armory.
uh, if I mean, I don't think so. Maybe
Mm.
the rigger that we had before Dijon shot himself in the leg while allegedly cleaning his personally owned firearms so that he didn't have to go on the boat. We had an LAR guy drop a 45-pound weight plate on his foot to break his foot so that he wouldn't have to go because he just found out his girlfriend was pregnant.
Dude, I would never do that. Never do. What? I'm not gonna. Whatever. I don't. They clearly have. They clearly needed to talk to somebody, but.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, you don't have to. I'm not in any way downplaying or deglorifying anybody who's had to face combat, but I am gonna say that if if you're upset or worried or not okay about something and you've not seen combat, like it's, dude, you're not the only one. Like, you're fine, or you're not fine, but it's fine to reach out, and
it's
like,
fine to not be fine.
Yeah, it's fine that we're not fine, and it's okay. Like, it's cool to talk to somebody about it, man. It's actually really important that you do. I think that it takes a very strong and comfortable person with who they are to allow them to be vulnerable enough to talk about something that's messing with them.
Yeah.
And and if you deny it, well, that's just a form of fear. Like, you don't want to face something, so you're ignoring.
Definitely. And the thing is the problems don't go away. The fear stays, but it's like what I was talking about with Rusty, like when you have these experiences and you don't deal with them, it's like holding on to like a charcoal briquette and wondering why your hand hurts.
Yeah.
Like, like when when I got out, I started smoking weed, like, a lot. And I still to this day think it's better for you than drinking. I'll take that to my grave. But
all things in moderation, though, right?
Of course. And that was the thing, is that would I would do everything I could stoned, safely at least. I would never drive or anything like that because it's still a drug. It's not a bad drug, but it's still a drug. And so, I wouldn't drive, or I wouldn't go to work high or anything like that. But like, if I was going to be playing video games, I'm like, you know what, this would be more fun when I was stoned. Going to bed, I'd smoke before going to bed. Like, I'd smoke before playing D&D. And
yeah, I was smoking every day there for a while too.
And it's just, it makes everything, there's a weird dichotomy with it where like you can get paranoid because you're acutely aware of everything about yourself, but at the same time it does have a very numbing thing where it allows you to not think about the things that are really bothering you. And
I would get more angry.
That would happen to me sometimes.
Not when I smoked, but when I would come off of my high, I would be more irritable. My patience would be a lot thinner.
Which I could see that,
because my patience is already razor thin.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I had to. I used it to cope with normal everyday life. Like, we have Disney passes, and I literally, when I decided I wanted to be a cop, I stopped smoking weed, and I went to Disneyland for the first time sober, like 6 months ago.
You're like, this place sucks.
No, it was really awesome, but like the problem was before then I had to be stoned because the crowds of people, just, I was so wound up all the time that I could not deal with the crowds of people. It made me mad and anxious, and I was freaked out all the time. And that's why I
don't like that. I don't really like being in super crowded areas.
Well, that's a symptom of anxiety, and that was one of the main things that prompted me to want to start this dialogue. Is that was the main thing that made me feel guilty, is like the fact that I couldn't go to Disneyland and deal with crowds, because hypervigilance and stuff like that is like a textbook symptom of PTSD. And I've never been diagnosed, but I was showing a lot of the symptoms of like minor, not crippling, but like minor PTSD. Like, I had a hard time falling asleep. I twitched a lot. Like I would, I couldn't deal with crowds. Like I drove way too fast. I couldn't be a passenger in a car. I still can't. I always have to drive. Like,
Yeah.
and it made me feel, like a fake, because
Yeah.
I was like, I feel like everyone in my life, my girlfriend, her family, people that I knew, were treating me and telling me that I had, that I was showing symptoms of PTSD, but we didn't experience, legitimate, like, knockdown, drag out combat. And that was,
And you're like,
I felt
you're
like
in a ribbon. I don't have PTSD.
yeah, I was like, I felt like an imposter. I was like, I have this cool OIR ribbon, but I don't have a car. I don't have a combat action ribbon. Like, so
Oh, dude, hearing that out loud anymore just sounds so fucking bizarre to me.
yeah. I mean,
Like
it's, but that's the thing, is that I feel like a lot of people have internalized that, and they don't, because that's what we're told. Well, the whole time that we're in, it's not, if you don't. I I don't think I was ever outright told, like, if you don't get in a firefight, you're not a real Marine. But I was definitely told verbatim, like, you're not a real Marine if you don't deploy. I was
that's
100% told
true.
that.
And
I
that's not
mean,
true. Because
agreed.
I'll tell you why. And it took me this was another thing that I kind of reflected on, that I wasn't able to appreciate until long after I'd gotten out. When the rest of the deck kind of went over to the NOLA, um, it was like me, Baron, and Adam that were left on the Boxer,
Hmm.
and the SEAL team that was attached to our boat was doing an advisory role, with some forces in Africa.
Hmm.
And there were some bad dudes that were going to be moving into a town. And this was actually like a legitimate thing that the MEU might react to. So they stood up what was it? They stood up the infantry platoon or whatever, and I think it was me and Baron. We augmented this platoon of grunts, and they're like fucking blades are spinning and all this stuff, and they're like, yo, if these dudes like engage this town, like we're gonna go in and back them up. We're gonna go in and back up the locals. I was like, holy fucking shit, dude! I actually might do something combat related.
Holy moly.
Dude, I was so stoked, bro. They gave me grenades and all that. They gave me a fucking rocket launcher. I was like, I don't know how to shoot this, and they were like, the instructions are on the side, and I was like,
Yeah,
fuck, okay.
just point it and shoot. It's a big tube.
That's literally what they said. They were like,
Yeah.
literally, you flip the switch, point and shoot, dude. They were like, and everyone was just as excited as I was. I was fucking amped, dude. I
Yeah.
was like, holy shit, dude. And it's so fucked up to think I was like, but at the moment I was like, oh, I hope they fuck
Yeah.
up. Like, I just,
Yeah. I
and
really hope that they take contact, because I really want to go and start stacking. Like, holy shit.
I know, dude. I was like, this is awesome. Maybe this is it. Maybe everything that like all the bullshit that I've gone through is actually gonna. It's not what I thought it was gonna be, but maybe I'll actually get to do something.
Right.
And we were out. We were at like alert 60 or whatever for fucking ever, and then I got called off. And we go in and we get debriefed. Shut up, dude. Uh, it gets called off and we go in to get debriefed, and for some reason, I don't know if it was like an intel leak or what, but those dudes caught wind that Americans were backing this town, and they just turned around and left. Like they stopped like as soon as they found out, and they left. And in the moment, I was like, gosh, that's super disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
I could have gotten that ribbon.
Yeah.
But fast forward 3 years and kind of combating like all the shit that I felt about the military, and trying to like reshape the good things and be a better person.
Mm-hmm.
Try not to let the what I felt as a disappointment like weigh down on me for the rest of my life. I thought of that moment, and I realized, I was like, and I realized this because someone else told me this too. My old platoon sergeant, he said, even if you don't deploy, it's a big deal that you're just here. He's like, being a force in readiness for your country does more things than you'll ever get to see.
Right.
And looking back on that and having that mission pulled off and going back to my rack to watch anime with you guys or whatever, like that's the coolest thing I never did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just because the Mew was there, just because American forces were in the area, like it probably stopped some innocent people from getting hurt. Like whether or not you shot at anyone or whether or not you kicked down any doors or physically took someone's life, like you being there is stopping people from doing shit.
Yeah. Deterrence is a real
it's a
deal.
massive deterrent.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's something to be proud of, whether
Yeah.
you get a ribbon out of it or not.
Of course. And I do agree with you. I feel, a lot more like that now. But, now that I've had this, all of this time to be introspective. And the thing is you have to be okay. You have to be comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. When you're addressing these things that have been eating at you, at least for me, like I did everything I could to not think about anything. I was smoking, drinking, working out, not working out, everything.
Yeah.
I was
Dude,
just like,
I had at one point, because that's exactly what I did. I started making distractions.
yeah.
At one point, I was taking 15 credit hours at my school, and I had 3 jobs.
Yep.
I was a personal trainer, a group fitness trainer, and I did audits for a restaurant chain in Tampa.
Yeah.
I literally, there was not, as soon as I woke up, I was doing something.
Yeah, you can't face your demons when you literally can't think about anything but other things. That's where I'm at right now. I've got 15 units of school. I've got a job. I'm trying to get back in shape to be a cop. I'm doing this and that's why I think that this is so important to me, is that this is therapeutic to me. Like being able to create this and have these conversations, and it legitimizes everything that I've felt. But it took a lot of emotional discomfort to get to a place where I could acknowledge all of these things. And if there's any advice that I could give to anybody listening that's like doing that self-medicating or whatever, it really is, you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable for a very it's not eternal. Like it didn't, like once I kind of turned the light on it, like, to kind of make a callback to Micah in episode 3, those bad feelings want to stay in the dark. Once you make the decision to turn the light on all of these things that you're feeling, it makes them a lot easier. It makes them easier to cope with, because the devil is a lot easier to deal with than the devil you don't.
Yeah.
It's 100% preferable, but
you're emotionally uncomfortable as it is.
Right.
If you're dealing with depression or anxiety or PTSD, like that's not really pleasant.
Absolutely. But when it becomes your norm, you don't want to rock the boat. The status quo, unpleasant as it may be, is you don't eventually, if it takes long enough, you might not know any different. Like I draw the same comparison to people that have been obese for 25 years. Like when I think of somebody who is super fucking obese, I think about how much their joints must hurt, and how much like you've just got to be in pain and feeling like shit all the time. But if you've been obese your entire life, you don't know what it feels like to be in really good shape. You don't know what it feels like to be healthy, or if you did at one point, you don't anymore, because you adapt to, over time you adapt to whatever.
Dieting's a bit.
Yeah, and it sucks, like that interview with Chris Pratt or whatever, when he was talking about getting in shape for Guardians of the Galaxy after being the fat goofy guy on Parks and Rec. He was like, they were like, what's it like? And he goes, well, you're just hungry all the time and you're just constantly running and crying. And I was like, that nobody wants that. But then once you're starting to reap the rewards, you can look back on it and think, damn, why did it take me so long to make that leap? Like when I stopped smoking weed, I my brain. I mean, and granted, everything in moderation. I was not smoking weed in moderation, so don't take this as a don't smoke weed.
Oh yeah, no, because I still do. I just make sure it's
Every once in a
at an
while, kind of thing.
appropriate time because
Right.
I think it's addicting. Really, I do because I'll do it. I'll like it so much, and I'll just do it every day. And I don't want to do that. So I
I
back off.
see.
I have like a limit. And
I used to think that until I stopped, and then I was like, because I've quit nicotine a couple times, and it's 1,000 times harder. Like I decided I wanted to smoke or stop smoking weed before I had to do so because I wanted to be a cop. I was like, you know what? I'm not sleeping very well, or like I'm sleeping way too much. Like there's no reason for me to need to sleep 11 hours a night to be able to feel like a person the next day. Like there's no need for me to like I forget shit all the time. Like I've got brain fog. Like maybe I should just stop. And I was like, I literally can't remember the last time I went an entire day without smoking. Like I should probably chill for a little bit.
by
And
the way,
so I did.
I commended you on your decision to be a police officer. I think it's a really good option.
Oh, thanks, dude. Yeah, I've caught a lot of flack for it, but
Welcome.
yeah. I mean, for me, it was kind of a thing where like I when I wanted to when I was in the Marine Corps, I wanted to get out and be a doctor. And
Yeah, doctor, is that you said?
yeah, I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. And then got out, shit started hitting the fan emotionally, and I wanted to, I was kind of like thinking about it, and I would have had to do, 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of grad or of med school, and then a year of internship, and then for orthopedic surgery, you have to do anywhere between a 6 or like a 5 to a 10 year, usually around 7 or 8 year residency.
It's a long road. I've
Yeah,
got a friend who's I have a friend, she's on the path to becoming a plastic surgeon, and then another person who's on the path to becoming an OBGYN, and they both voice it's very long and arduous.
exactly. And, at the time, I still was like dead set on having kids and stuff like that. And, I have older parents, and, they did it for all the right reasons financially and stuff. But when I was growing up, they were telling me like, having kids is a young person's game. Like, I'm 25 and my parents are, past 60. And, I didn't want to be, to quote Dr. Cox from Scrubs, if you watch that show, he's like, I don't want to be that dad where he's pushing his kid on, the swing, and everybody walking around is like, is that his dad? Is that the dad's dad? Is that the granddad's granddad? Like, who knows?
Yeah, I don't get my shit together, man. That might be me.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing is like, I don't know at this point, I don't know if I do either, but, I basically was like, I don't want to, because I didn't want to have kids when I was in residency, because you're at the hospital 120 hours a week, you're making 60 grand a year, and I didn't really want to do that to my significant other. I didn't want to be like, cool, I'm really glad that we had this child together. I will see you, here's my office hours when you can bring them by, or anything like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And after that, I was like, well, I got to pick something else. And so I thought, maybe I could, and I was in the brewing industry, I'm in the brewing industry. So, I thought maybe I want to be a brewer. That'd be really cool. But
I worked at a brewery as well.
yeah, it's a great fucking time. I love it. And I was,
fun, yeah. It's very relaxing.
Exactly. It's awesome. And I was like, maybe I can, maybe I could be a brewer because I love, the science behind it, and I love really good beer. But then, brewers. Yeah, me too. But, the culture is really cool and stuff like that. But, the science is pretty intense, and, I like the scientific aspect. But but then I looked it up, and it's like, brewers make like, the national average for a brewer is like 38 grand a year or something. I was like,
don't make a lot of
Yeah, and it's arduous, man. It's like it's legit manual labor, and I was like, well,
Warehouse
yeah,
work. It's warehouse work that meets chemistry.
exactly. And nine
Yeah,
times out of 10, you're not the chemist. You get a recipe and you just do it. And so
yeah.
I was like,
Dude, our brewer and the chemist, they would butt heads a lot.
oh,
Brewer had a lot more like he had a lot more years of experience brewing, and then
yeah,
the chemist had the degree, and like
yeah, exactly. It's the staff NCO versus officer debate. But
yeah,
so and then Cam wanted me to, he was trying to put, he was pushing programming on me because I'm a pretty logical person and he's a fucking savant programmer, and so he was like really stoked on me like trying to be a programmer and going into video game design and shit like that. And then I really like sat down and thought about it, and I was like, look, what is it that I like doing? Oh, and there were a couple other things. Like I wanted to be like an oceanographer or like a apparently there's no such thing as just a marine biologist. That encompasses a whole bunch of different shit. So I wanted to be an oceanographer because I love the water and science and blah blah blah. So I'm ping ponging around a bunch of things. And I'm like, finally I sit down and I'm like, what is it that I actually am fulfilled by? Not what do I enjoy doing or what do I think I'm good at. What makes me feel fulfilled? And it's helping. It's
yeah,
helping people. That's one of the reasons, I joined the Marine Corps not out of a sense of altruism, but out of a sense of desperation, really. But I found that the sense of service and the sense of feeling like you're part of something larger than yourself was very rewarding. That's one of the things that the Marine Corps did indeed bless me with, is I really found that I love helping. I like helping people.
yeah.
And
I mean, it's in
and
your best interest.
what's that?
I mean, it's in your best interest to help other people because then they will help you.
Yeah, exactly. And it gives you the warm and fuzzies when you make someone's day better, or you've helped them through something shitty or something like that. And I kind of was like, I want to stay in public service, just not badly enough to go back into the Marine Corps. So, what can I do that would, be mentally engaging and fulfill this need of mine for public service? And I I kind of landed on law enforcement, and I started talking to um, a couple family friends and colleagues and stuff that either are or have been in law enforcement, and the general consensus is it's fucking awesome. And they get a really bad rap because it's easy to put a scapegoat, it's easy to make them into a scapegoat. And
Sure.
not that every cop is perfect and that the media is a liar or whatever, but uh,
Yeah.
they definitely do have a bad reputation. And I was talking to one of my friends about it, who has only had bad experiences with cops, African American gentleman, not had the best time with cops in his life. And I told him, I was like, I have never had that experience, and the only way that I can ensure that other people, especially kids, don't have that experience is if I take a spot on the police force from
Mm,
somebody who would do that to them.
yeah.
And because I know I'm not going to go and be an asshole to people, because I've spent all of, my 25 years reading news stories about shitty cops and stuff like that. Like, I know what to not do.
Yeah.
And so at least if you can't leave it up to anybody else, you have to do it yourself. And I'm
Mm.
totally okay with that. And I think I'm really excited for it. It's the first time I've been really excited for a career in ever, probably.
Dude, I'm really happy that you found that you
Thanks, dude.
found like something you get excited about. I think it's really important to note that you were able to find that because you explored a lot of other options, which
Yeah.
is kind of like I've done a similar thing. So like when I first I went on a pipeline, and then I was a personal trainer, and then I was a group fitness instructor, and I worked at a brewery. I
Mm-hmm.
did the evaluations for the restaurant, and in school I changed my major so many times, dude. I've changed my mind so many times in the past 3 years on what I wanted to do. I initially went to school because I was like, well, maybe I want to be a physical therapist. And I was like, well, I started talking to physical therapists. I would like call their offices and like schedule like an interview with them, or I met a couple of them, and like hearing their experiences and what actually goes into the job. I was like, maybe I don't like that. Well, maybe I like physician assistant. I started looking into physician assistant, did the same thing, and it was like it just didn't seem like it was something that I would enjoy. So then I changed my major. I was like, well, you know what? I'll do engineering. I think that would be good. If anything, like I'll learn a skill from it.
Right.
One of my friends is a mechanical engineer, and he went through the engineering program. He got a job doing something that is computer science related, where he has no experience in it, and his degree helped him.
Zero.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely none.
Hell yeah.
But he's talking to me about what he actually did and what actually like the kind of engineering he was to actually encompass. And the more research I did involving that, I was like, I don't think that I want to be an engineer. That's not what I pictured. And I had pictured fucking like Tony Stark or something.
Like schematics and yeah.
Yeah. And that's really not it. It's a lot of it's like troubleshooting, but like, and it's not as cool as I thought it would have been. So I was like, well, maybe I don't want to do engineering. And then I just started looking for degrees that got you high paying jobs. So I was like, well, okay, what can I major in STEM? And there wasn't really much in STEM. I thought about physics for a little bit, and I was like, no. So then I went to like the big business degrees. I was like, well, maybe I'll get a degree in economics because that's kind of like a social science. Maybe I'll enjoy that a little bit better. So I started taking it. I went from taking engineering classes to taking economics classes, and I took upper level math classes and stuff. And actually, while I was a personal trainer, I started training a guy who was going to USF to get his PhD in economics. And he started talking to me about what economics actually was once you get past the basic level stuff. And I was like, whoa, that is not, he was like writing his dissertation. He's writing his thesis on like how the economics of vaccines in South America, like impact like X, Y, and Z. I was like, that's wild. I'm not really interested in that.
You're like, I just watched Wolf of Wall Street, man. Like,
but that's the thing is I was looking for the wrong stuff.
Yeah.
And I changed it even when I had like I had like a little meltdown right before I started seeking some help. And I was like, dude, none of it fucking matters. I'll just study whatever. I was like, I'll major in philosophy or whatever. And
just be angry at God all the time.
Yeah. And then I took a step back and I was like, well, what's my situation? And my situation is pretty unique. It's very fortunate, all things considered, is, I have the opportunity to go to school and walk away with a degree of my choosing with no debt. And I have 6 years of really good work experience under my belt, and I have a veteran preference. So I don't need a specific job, or I don't need a specific degree to get a job. And by doing a lot of research and talking to a lot of people, I found out that a lot of people don't get jobs in their field of study. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, the statistic I read was, I think only 20% of people get a job within their field of study. And most of those are either engineers, because you can't get an engineering job without an engineering degree.
Yeah, or like law or medicine.
Yeah, nursing students and accounting majors, because you're going to go be an accountant.
Yeah.
Those are like the third, like people treat college like it's a trade school, and that's not the case. It's not a trade school. You don't learn a job there. You get a broad range of education, especially within like a bachelor's degree. Now, if you want to go and get your MBA, or you want to go get a specialty degree afterwards, you want to get your doctorate of physical therapy or whatever you want to do afterwards, sure. But as far as like a bachelor's degree, like
it's high school diploma 2.0. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, well, what's the fucking, I might as well just study whatever I want to study. And that's when I really started like just doing things that felt right for me, and the things that made me happy, the things that I'm passionate about, because why not?
Yeah.
And I found out I really like writing. I'm like, well, this might not get me a job, but hell, if I study something for a few years, I might as well do it in something I enjoy.
That's
So
awesome.
I'm double majoring in English creative writing and philosophy.
Hell yeah. The
So, but
two
I enjoy
hardest
it, dude.
things
I really like it a
to
lot.
get a
I
job,
enjoy all
air
the
quotes.
information that I get.
That's awesome, man. That's so fucking cool. And I I remember talking to you at Rusty's wedding, which admittedly there are some chunks missing from. Um that was that was a good wedding. But I remember talking to you about it and being like and asking you, what you've been up to. Are you still pursuing the cuz I think it was econ was the last time I had talked to you about it, if
Probably.
I'm not mistaken. But um and you're like, "No, I'm doing English now." I was like,
Yep.
"What?" You could not go from a more like nitty-gritty still within the soft sciences, but more of a nitty-gritty thing to something as broad stroke and creative as creative writing. And now that we're kind of wrapping everything up, you're doing stand up.
Oh yeah, so I'm dabbling in it. Okay, like I still suck really bad, but yeah, I'm writing stand up. I'm going to open mics, and I'm on an improv team in my at my college, so I do like improv shows, which is a lot of fun. Dude, I'm a creative person, and that's something that I found out through my introspection and kind of evolving since I've gotten out of the Marine Corps. Is that is really who I am. Is that I'm a creative individual, and that's what I want to focus my time on. Now I have a plan to get another job. So like after I'm done with my bachelor's degree, I'm actually going to go and get, dude, it's going to be a really boring job, but they get paid really well. I'm going to get certified to be a dental hygienist, and I'm going to move to Chicago. I'm going to work that job, and I'm going to do what I'm passionate about.
That's really cool.
Um, and if I fail at my passions, dude, I still have a good job, and which is something to be grateful for at any point in your life. Because there's a lot of people that don't have good jobs, that are slave to their job,
Yep.
and they live miserable lives, dude.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
if I can have something that's stable and allows me to pursue my passions, I'm gonna be pretty happy with that. It's
Yeah.
so much fun. Like I know you guys were talking in another episode to find like a community of people that you can kind of be with that
Yeah.
kind of helps you. And for me, like performers are like that. Like my friends, I have a couple of buddies that are in this band called Rona. They're fucking cool. They're like
Yeah.
a psychedelic rock group. They're really cool. And then everyone that I know in improv, and I have a small clique of people that are doing open mics with me. And it's like I really like making people laugh, dude. I like
Yeah.
making people laugh. I like performing, and I think that for me, that's worth my time. And
100%.
I'll work whatever job that I need to, so long as I'm able to pursue that. And if I break into some industry, then then that's fantastic. And if I don't, at least I fucking tried,
Yeah.
which is more than a lot of other people can say.
That's true.
And if you're listening to this and you have any inkling of wanting to do something that a lot of people might shake their head at, don't think twice. Just do it, man.
Yeah.
Have a plan and do it, because this life is not a tryout, dude. This is the one that we get, and we have no idea what happens afterwards. And if you die with regret in your heart, that's your own fault. So you have to
100%.
you have to work on that.
And especially if it's something creative, because the cool thing about doing something creative is there's no wrong way to do it.
Yeah.
Like you're doing
Have a
this.
plan.
Well,
Have a plan.
have a plan in the
It's
sense that
it's a very the margin of success is very small, so just be
yeah,
aware of that.
yeah, have a backup plan. Don't put all your
Yeah.
eggs in the underwater basket weaving basket, pun sort of
Yeah.
intended,
No.
if you want to do
Exactly.
that. But when I decided I wanted to do a podcast, I was like, okay, well, what do I need for this? I'm watching YouTube videos of Joe Rogan and all these different big time podcasters, and they've got huge studios and shit like this. And then I've heard other podcasts that are recorded on a phone, so it's
Yeah.
like there's no right or wrong way to do it. And there's I think that's one of the more interesting things about comedy specifically, is that one, the art form is still so new. I mean, the big time comics like Kinnison and Pryor, like that was 50 40 50 years ago. That's like two
Yeah.
people ago. That's one person ago.
Yeah.
Like our parents were probably watching those dudes and listening to their albums being like, "Holy shit, this is groundbreaking shit." And that was not that fucking long ago. And
Do you,
sorry,
go
go ahead.
ahead.
Not you.
Um, you want to hear something interesting about comedy?
Yeah.
Um, so dramatic arts in general have been heavily influenced by Aristotle's writings called Poetics.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find in there his pretty much structure for drama and what creates drama. And a lot of people have elaborated on that over the years, but most of it still holds true. Um, and in the beginning of it, he says that the first half of the book, he's going to discuss drama. And then in the last half of the book, he's going to talk about comedy.
Uh-huh.
And there's no there's no recovered artifacts of anything in relation to that second half of the book. It's lost.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
so comedy and everything that is comedy it's still really mysterious. Like people kind of like have like their own takes on it, and like they've kind of analyzed it their own selves. But like out of everything that I've been reading and everything that I've heard, there's you can dissect it into 1,000 little pieces, but still it boils down to it either works or it doesn't work. Why funny? They just are.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean that like that's something that you hear from comics is that you can't teach. And to be clear, everyone, when I'm saying comedy, I mean stand up per se. Like it for this specific
Sure.
conversation. You know, there's no if you're going to a stand up comedy class, there's a reason why the teacher of that class doesn't have a Netflix special. You know, you can't teach.
Yeah, and I don't want to dog those things because
Oh,
I might be taking some of those classes.
well, I mean, the thing is I'm not trying to say that you know that that was a bit heavy-handed. I admit that, but you know, all I'm saying is that it's not something. It's kind of a you either have it or you don't kind of thing, and you can obviously hone it and become better and more refined
Yeah.
until because it is an art form. But you
Yeah.
know, like painting, for example, there was a girl like we were talking about the art like the high school artists, you know, at the beginning of the episode where you know these kids at 16, 17 years old are carrying around gorgeous thought-provoking, you know, emotion-stirring oil canvas paintings. And you know, there's one of them off the top of my head. Her name's Ali Futrell, and you know she's a professional artist, like doing professional model or murals and stuff, and you know she has pop-up art galleries and shit all over. But you know you could tell even back then, like damn, this girl can fucking paint, bro. If you put a gun to my head and put me through you know an entire like art crash course taught by Picasso his fucking self, I'm not producing anything like she is. You know what I mean? I don't
Yeah.
have that. I can be taught, and you know it'll be something, but it wouldn't be something great because you have to have it and then build off of it. I think you have to have something innate and then build off of it to be able to be a great artist in whatever.
Yeah. And I do think that it is kind of like a compulsion. Like it's something that you're kind of driven to.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen like some people will get into that. Some people will get into that hobby in hopes of just becoming famous and then, you know, having, you know, just being a celebrity. Um, I'm going into it knowing good and well that I'll probably,
They'll
okay.
probably fail.
Yeah, but I'm still gonna do my best, and I'm gonna seize any opportunity that I have in front of me. I'm just doing it because I feel good doing it,
Good.
and it makes me happy, and it seems to make other people happy,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that is worth doing. I feel like if something that makes you happy and brings joy to your life, that's definitely worth doing.
Absolutely. So
So,
for final notes, it would be introspective. Don't ignore things that make you feel off. You know, it doesn't have to be, you know, night terrors. It's just if you find yourself thinking of something and it bringing you down, address it, even if it's uncomfortable. Get comfortable being uncomfortable, and do what you love.
Do what you love.
Do what you love. And then, and we keep.
And I would say also just, you can get above it. You can fight through it. You can find a way out of it. You can ask for help. No matter what your situation is, you can always make it better. Whether you're in, or whether you're getting out, or whether you're already out, like you can definitely get over that stuff.
Yeah.
You can be a much better person because of it.
Agreed. I like it. Those are some good closing notes.
Yeah.
But I do
Thanks.
think you're welcome, man. But unfortunately, I do think we need to wrap this up because it's been like 3 hours.
Yeah, dude. Are you gonna put 3 hours on there?
I don't know. I'll probably cut it a little
dude.
bit
If you
out.
gotta trim them, I got kind of long.
All right, everybody. Thank you again for listening. I really hope you guys enjoyed my interview with Brandon. I learned a lot about the guy. I had no idea that he had such an insane time inside and outside of the Marine Corps. So I hope you guys enjoyed learning about him as much as I did. Do me a favor, and again, we're trying to grow this thing and reach as many people as possible. So subscribe to the podcast, tell your friends, follow the social media, and keep plugging on, keep hammering. I appreciate you all. Thank you.